Welcome to this explainer. We're taking a dramatic, truly cinematic dive into literally the greatest journey ever told. We're stepping way back into ancient Greece, starting right at the bloody, ash-covered end of the Trojan War. I want you to picture it, the detailed, battle-worn bronze armor, those sweeping, gorgeous vistas of the Aegean Sea. We're talking an epic scale here, the kind you'd expect from a massive, high-budget historical documentary. We're gonna experience the complete story of the Odyssey, a tale of survival, terrifying monsters, and the relentless wrath of the gods. Let's get into it. So, the Greeks have finally sacked Troy after a grueling 10-year siege. The war is won, right? All the other great Greek heroes are packing up their ships, heading back to their families, and reclaiming their thrones. But one man is missing. Odysseus, the famously clever king of Ithaca, just kind of vanishes into myth. For him, the true nightmare is honestly just beginning, because the gods are fiercely divided over his fate, setting the stage for this sweeping, visceral epic. Just consider the sheer scale of what this guy goes through. 10 brutal years fighting in the mud and blood at Troy, followed by another 10 full years navigating a terrifying world of monsters, magic, and vengeful gods, just trying to cross the ocean to get back to his family. I mean, that's 2 whole decades of a man's life consumed by violence and the desperate struggle to simply go home. Chapter 1, A Cursed Voyage begins, and man, right out of the gate after Troy, things go terribly wrong. After suffering bloody losses to the Cicons, his crew gets thrown into the eerie land of the Lotus Eaters. This is where anyone who eats this mysterious lotus fruit literally loses all memory of their home, forever. Odysseus actually has to physically drag his enchanted, weeping men back to the ships. But the true horror, the kind of shadowy, terrifying scene you'd expect in a psychological thriller, starts when they get trapped inside a massive cave. The giant Cyclops, Polyphemus, begins eating the crew. Yeah, eating them. And with a massive boulder blocking the exit, brute strength just isn't going to work. So Odysseus has to use his legendary intelligence to execute this desperate, 3-step escape plan. He gets the monster drunk, violently blinds him with a glowing sharpened stake, and then cleverly ties his men beneath the bellies of the giant's sheep. That way, they can slip out totally undetected when the flock is let out to graze. Genius, right? Well, hubris has horrific consequences. As Odysseus and his surviving crew are sailing away, he just can't help himself. He arrogantly shouts his real name back at the bleeding giant. And wow, is that a massive mistake. See, Polyphemus is the son of Poseidon, the god of the sea. So the Cyclops prays to his father for revenge, shouting this exact curse that completely dooms Odysseus's voyage and ensures the ocean itself becomes his greatest enemy. Part 2, Magic, Monsters, and Death. With the god of the sea now his mortal enemy, the ocean transforms from a simple pathway home into a relentless, terrifying gauntlet of mythical proportions. Imagine the cinematic visuals here. Skies turning pitch black, violent storms tearing at the sails, and the churning ocean hiding ancient terrors. Just look at this cascading sequence of absolute disasters that strikes the crew. First, the wind god Aeolus gives them a magical bag containing all the contrary winds. With the rocky shores of Ithaca literally visible on the horizon, his exhausted crew suspects he's hoarding treasure, they open the bag, and bam! The unleashed hurricane blows them all the way back across the sea. Then they run into the giant Laestrygonians, who brutally obliterate almost the entire fleet. Only Odysseus' ship survives. And if that wasn't enough, they land on the island of the sorceress Circe, who uses her dark magic to transform his remaining men into pigs. That is, until the god Hermes finally intervenes to help Odysseus resist her spells. Circe eventually becomes their ally, but she gives them some terrifying news. To find his way, Odysseus has to journey into the dark, foggy depths of the underworld. It's such a haunting, atmospheric scene. Down in the darkness, he meets the blind prophet Tiresias, who delivers chilling warnings of the trials to come. But even more emotionally devastating, Odysseus speaks with the spirit of his own mother and the ghosts of fallen friends and great heroes from the Trojan War. They are all a haunting reminder of the terrible, empty cost of glory. Armed with these dark warnings, Odysseus sails back into the mortal world to face the sirens. Now, their hauntingly beautiful song is famous for luring sailors to a watery, shipwrecked grave. To survive, Odysseus orders his crew to block their ears completely with beeswax. But Odysseus, driven by this insatiable, almost dangerous curiosity, commands his men to tie him securely to the ship's wooden mast. He alone endures the agonizing, intoxicating music, screaming to be released as his deafened crew rows them to safety. Next, he faces an impossible, completely heart-wrenching leadership choice. They have to navigate a narrow, fog-choked strait. On one side is Scylla, this grotesque, six-headed monster living high up in the cliffs. On the other side is Charybdis, a massive, churning whirlpool threatening to drag the entire ship straight into the abyss. Odysseus makes the cold, devastating calculation to choose the lesser danger. He sails near Scylla, helplessly listening to the screams of 6 of his absolute best men as they're snatched from the deck and devoured. Just brutal. And after surviving all of that, the giants, the magic, the monsters, his starving, desperate crew makes one final, fatal error. Despite strict warnings, they slaughter and eat the sacred cattle of the sun god Helios. The retribution is swift and totally apocalyptic. Zeus shatters their ship with a blinding thunderbolt, and every single sailor drowns. Out of an entire fleet, only one single survivor remains. Odysseus alone is left drifting on the wreckage. This brings us to Chapter 3, The Long Years Lost. Odysseus is entirely alone, washed up on the pristine shores of the island belonging to the beautiful nymph Calypso. But listen, this paradise is a prison. For years, the heartbroken hero is held captive as her unwilling husband, just spending his days staring out at the sea, weeping for a home he truly believes he will never see again. Meanwhile, let's pan the camera back to Ithaca, where the situation is rapidly deteriorating into chaos. Assuming the king is dead, this horde of arrogant suitors has completely invaded his palace. They're eating his food, drinking his wine, and aggressively pressuring his fiercely loyal wife, Penelope, to choose one of them as a new husband. His son, Telemachus, feels entirely powerless against them. Prompted by the goddess Athena, who's disguised as a traveler, Telemachus sets sail to visit ancient kings like Nestor and Menelaus, desperately searching for literally any news of his father. Back at sea, the gods finally intervene. Zeus orders Calypso to release her captive. But of course Poseidon isn't done. He summons a violent storm that completely smashes Odysseus's makeshift raft. Barely clinging to life, Odysseus washes up on the shores of the Phaeacians and is discovered by Princess Nausicaa. They take him in, and during this magnificent royal feast, a blind bard begins to sing a song about the Trojan War. The heavy memories just break the hardened warrior. He begins to weep openly, finally revealing his true identity and recounting the massive epic story we've just traveled through. And that brings us to our final act, Chapter 4, Vengeance and Peace Restored. Deeply moved and honoring his tragic, incredible story, the Phaeacians load him onto a swift ship. They secretly ferry the exhausted sleeping king back across the water, finally leaving him on the sandy shores of Ithaca. After 20 long years, the king has returned. But he can't exactly just walk through the front gates. The suitors would murder him instantly. To allow him to secretly judge who in his household has actually remained loyal, the goddess Athena disguises the legendary muscular warrior as a frail, unrecognizable old beggar. Hiding in this disguise, he seeks out his faithful swineherd, Eumaeus, and finally, emotionally reunites with his grown son, Telemachus. Hiding in the shadows of the estate, they begin to plot a ruthless revenge. Inside the palace, Penelope is running out of time, so she announces an impossible contest to finally choose a husband. The challenge? Take Odysseus's massive, stiff hunting bow, string it, and shoot a single arrow cleanly through the small rings of 12 lined-up axe heads. One by one, the arrogant, wealthy suitors try, and one by one they fail to even bend the wood enough to string it. And then, the old beggar asks for a turn. The suitors mock and laugh at him. But you have to ask yourself, who can actually pull this off? What follows is a cinematic climax of truly epic proportions. The hall falls dead silent as the beggar effortlessly strings the great bow. He fires the impossible shot perfectly through all 12 axe heads. Then, with Telemachus and his loyal servants at his side, he locks the heavy wooden doors of the great hall. He strips away his disguise, revealing the furious king of Ithaca. Arrows fly, bronze clashes, and Odysseus delivers brutal, bloody justice, defeating every last suitor who defiled his home. The battle is won, but a very cautious Penelope needs to be absolutely sure this blood-soaked warrior isn't just a trick of the gods. So she tests him. She casually orders their servant to move their massive marriage bed out into the hall. Odysseus furiously erupts, explaining that the bed is totally immovable. He built their bedroom around a living, rooted olive tree, carving the bedpost straight from the trunk. Only the real Odysseus could possibly know that intimate secret. Penelope finally bursts into tears and embraces him, officially ending 20 agonizing years of separation. As peace is finally restored to Ithaca and this explainer comes to an end, it leaves us with one powerful, lingering thought. Odysseus survived monsters, storms, and the deep wrath of the gods through his unparalleled intelligence, patience, and sheer endurance. But looking at the entirety of his life, we have to ask ourselves, was his greatest victory winning that massive, glorious war at Troy? Or was it having the unbreakable willpower to find his way back to the people he loves? Keep that in mind next time you face a long journey of your own.